It was supposed to be a routine flight, first class, champagne waiting, a view above the clouds. But for Marcus Ellison, a 42-year-old black CEO of one of the biggest tech firms in America, it became a moment that stripped away the illusion of equality. Moments after settling into his seat, a flight attendant approached him, her polite smile trembling with discomfort. "Sir, there's been a mistake." What followed wasn't just humiliation, it was a quiet reminder that no amount of success could shield him from what the world still saw first: his skin. Marcus Ellison had built his life on discipline and dignity. Born in Atlanta to a single mother who worked double shifts, he had fought his way through college, corporate politics, and the suffocating glass ceiling that hovered above men like him. Now he was the youngest black CEO of a company valued at over $4 billion, a man whose name opened doors, whose presence commanded rooms. That morning, Marcus was traveling to San Francisco for a global leadership summit, an event he was hosting. The airline had arranged his first-class seat as part of a corporate partnership. Everything about the trip was polished: the tailored charcoal suit, the leather briefcase, the crisp boarding pass reading Seat 1A. When he entered the cabin, heads turned. Some passengers smiled politely. Others, however, gave that look, one Marcus knew too well. The kind that scanned your skin before your suit. But he ignored it, took his seat, and began reviewing his presentation slides. Minutes later, a white businessman boarded and paused beside him. The man frowned, glanced at Marcus, and then at the seat number above. Marcus didn't think much of it until the flight attendant returned. Her tone was apologetic but firm. There had been a mix-up. The seat was supposed to belong to someone else. The man smirked slightly as Marcus was asked to stand. The other passengers watched in silence. And in that moment, something inside him, the patience, the grace, cracked. Marcus moved to the aisle, stunned but calm. He wasn't one to cause a scene. The attendant, clearly uncomfortable, offered him another seat, still in first class but tucked in the back corner. He agreed, not wanting confrontation, but the sting of humiliation settled deep. As he sat down, he overheard quiet whispers. The white passenger had taken seat 1A, reclining with satisfaction, while the attendants fussed over him. A few rows back, an elderly woman caught Marcus's eye and gave a small, sad smile, as if to say, "I'm sorry the world still does this." The flight took off. Marcus stared out the window, his reflection looking back at him, an image of success marred by the shadow of injustice. He'd spent decades perfecting his calm in the face of racism, learning to outthink it, outperform it, outlast it. But something about today felt different. He thought about his employees, thousands of them, many who looked like him, who fought daily battles behind polite smiles. He thought about his mother, who once told him, "Son, they'll respect your title, but they may never respect your truth." Halfway through the flight, a crew member offered him a drink, trying to smooth over the discomfort. But Marcus's silence spoke louder than words. His mind was already moving, not in anger, but in clarity. When they landed, he waited until the other passengers disembarked. Then, calmly, he approached the flight attendants and requested to speak with the captain. The crew hesitated, unsure who he was or why he demanded their attention. That's when he handed over his business card. Their eyes widened. The logo was unmistakable, his company's name. The same company that had just renewed a major 5-year tech contract with their airline. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He simply said, "I'd like to discuss how your team represents your brand, our partner brand." The weight of his words sank in immediately. The flight attendants exchanged nervous glances, realizing the gravity of the situation. But Marcus wasn't seeking vengeance, at least not yet. He wanted reflection. He wanted accountability. As he walked away, he called his assistant and said 6 simple words that would soon ripple through the company's boardrooms and news feeds. "Review our contract with this airline." Within an hour, Marcus was in his car watching the city lights blur past as his assistant briefed him. The incident had already been reported through the airline's internal channel. Someone on board had recorded everything. The video was circulating on social media, gaining traction by the minute. The public outcry was swift. Hashtags exploded, news outlets began calling, and the airline's PR team scrambled to release a statement. But Marcus didn't speak publicly, not yet. Instead, he arranged a meeting with the airline's executives. Sitting across from them in a glass conference room, he listened as they stumbled through apologies, citing miscommunication, procedural error, human oversight. He let them finish, then leaned forward. "When I was asked to move, it wasn't a mistake. It was a message. And messages like that cost partnerships." Silence. Within 24 hours, Marcus's company terminated its multi-million-dollar contract with the airline. The decision sent shockwaves through the corporate world. Employees were retrained, staff were suspended, and the flight crew involved was dismissed. But Marcus didn't feel victorious. There was no satisfaction in justice that required humiliation to awaken it. He hadn't fired them for revenge. He'd done it to expose a truth that boardrooms like to ignore. Racism doesn't vanish with success. It hides behind professionalism until it's challenged. Days later, Marcus sat alone in his office, watching the storm unfold online. Some called him a hero. Others accused him of overreacting. But for Marcus, this wasn't about a seat. It was about dignity. He thought of the next young black professional boarding a plane. Briefcase in hand, heart full of ambition, unaware of how quickly respect could be revoked. He wanted that person to know that silence isn't strength. It's surrender. So he wrote an open letter. It wasn't angry, but it was honest. He spoke about how racism today doesn't always shout. It smiles, apologizes, and calls it a mistake. He called on companies to not just diversify their ads, but their values. The letter went viral. It was quoted in newsrooms, discussed in classrooms, and printed in leadership journals. But the line that resonated most read, "Power isn't about position. It's about using your position to confront what others choose to ignore." Weeks later, the airline launched a new inclusivity training program, mandatory for all employees. Marcus declined their invitation to consult, but offered one piece of advice. Make it about empathy, not optics. In the end, Marcus didn't just reclaim his seat. He reclaimed something larger, the right to be seen, not as a token of progress, but as a man who demanded humanity where courtesy had failed. And as his story faded from headlines, its echo remained, a question for everyone who'd watched. When you see injustice, will you stay seated? Or will you stand, even when it's uncomfortable?